Have you ever wondered what terrors lurked in the dawn of humanity? Long before written history could record our deepest fears. What if the oldest monsters weren't beasts of fang and claw, but something far more ancient? Something born from the very darkness itself. In the oldest valley on the face of the earth, a place where the biting wind carried neither scent nor sound, there existed a hole. This wasn't a cave, carved by water and time. It was not a wound in the earth, left by some falling star. No, this was a perfect, unnerving circle bored directly into the bedrock, a void blacker than a starless night, and deeper than any human reason could possibly fathom. The scattered, nomadic tribes that skirted the edges of this desolate valley had a name for it. They called it the Pit That Eats Light. Their oldest legends, passed down through generations in hushed tones around flickering fires, claimed that the pit was more ancient than the sun itself. They whispered that the world, in its infancy, had grown around this anomaly like scar tissue forming over a wound that would never heal. An unspoken law, a primal taboo, governed their existence. They never ever went near the pit after the sun had bled from the sky. They knew that sometimes, in the dead calm when the relentless wind finally ceased its howling, voices would rise from the hole. These voices sounded hauntingly, almost deceptively human, but the words they spoke were impossible constructs, syllables of dread that no one could ever remember by the light of morning, leaving only a residue of pure, unexplainable terror in their hearts. The theories among the tribes were as varied as they were fearful. Some of the elders believed it was the earth itself, taking a slow, deep breath from its core. Others, the more spiritual shamans, were convinced it was the collective voice of the dead, still whispering their forgotten tales from an age that existed before time had a name. But fear, as potent as it is, often finds its match in a far more dangerous human trait: curiosity. One night, under a sky choked with clouds and devoid of a moon, 3 young hunters decided to break the ancient taboo. They were in the prime of their lives, their bodies strong, their spirits proud, and their minds alight with the reckless fire of curiosity. After all, curiosity is an instinct far older and perhaps more powerful than fear itself. They did not believe in the whispers of old men or the shadows of forgotten legends. Their logic was simple and practical. They carried torches fashioned from the bones of great beasts and hardened resin, their flames a defiant orange against the oppressive dark. They brought with them ropes, meticulously woven from the sinews of a mammoth, strong enough to hold their weight and their ambition. In their minds, they were not descending into a gateway to some netherworld. They were simply exploring a deep cave. They believed, with the certainty of youth, that they would find an ancient, colossal beast sleeping in the depths, a creature whose meat would be enough to feed their entire tribe for a full cycle of the moon. They were, tragically, horrifyingly wrong. As they began their descent, securing the mammoth-sinew ropes to a jagged outcrop of rock, the very air around them began to change. It grew unnaturally warm, a humid, cloying heat that was utterly wrong for the cold. High altitude night, the familiar, earthy smell of stone and damp soil vanished, replaced by something else entirely. It was a faint, organic scent, not of decay, but something vast and living. As their torches cast flickering, dancing light onto the walls of the pit, they saw that the surface wasn't rough-hewn rock. The walls were unnervingly smooth, slick, and veined with dark, pulsing lines, reflecting their torchlight with a disturbing sheen of wet, living skin. The disquieting rhythm began to play their descent. For every step they took downwards, for every scrape of their high boots against the slick walls, the echo that returned to them was off. It came back half a heartbeat too late, a delayed, muffled sound, as though something else, unseen and unheard, was walking just behind them, mimicking their every move in the suffocating darkness below. The physics of sound, the very laws of their reality, were being warped in this place. But they tried to speak to one another, to offer words of encouragement or to comment on the strange warmth. Their voices came back to them, twisted and mangled. The echoes returned, not as their own words, but as distorted melodies, as if the darkness itself were a sentient entity, listening intently, and actively trying to learn their language by dissecting and reassembling the sounds they made. A deep, primal unease began to settle in their hearts, colder and heavier than the stone surrounding them. Halfway down into the immeasurable blackness, one of the hunters, the youngest of the three, suddenly stopped. He froze, his knuckles white as he gripped the rope. He had felt something brush against his leg, a touch that was soft, impossibly cold, and utterly silent. He quickly raised his torch, swinging its light down to see what had touched him. But a new horror awaited him. The flame itself, the very source of his light and safety, seemed to recoil. The fire bent and twisted away from the spot, refusing to illuminate the thing that had made contact with him. The light, as if it had a will of its own, refused to fall upon it. And then, in the sudden, crushing silence, came the whisper. It was not an echo from the walls. It was low, intimate, and perfectly clear, spoken directly beside his ear. It said his name, a name only his tribe knew. A tremor of pure, undiluted terror shot through him. He forced himself to look down, his eyes wide with a dread he had never known. And he saw his shadow, cast long and distorted on the wall by the torchlight of his companion above. But his shadow was smiling. A wide, predatory grin stretched across its featureless face. A scream, raw, filled with mortal terror, tore from his throat. But no one heard it. Not his companions, just meters away. Not the world above, because the sound didn't rise. It didn't echo, it simply sunk. It fell into the depths of the pit, as if it were a physical object, swallowed by the silence, and it never came back. The very concept of sound had been devoured. The other two, seeing the silent, gaping terror on their friend's face before he went limp on the rope, began to climb faster, their own torches shaking violently, casting spastic, panicked shadows all around them. But with every desperate step they took upwards, darkness below seemed to breathe heavier, palpable presence closing in. Each time they blinked, the circumference of the pit felt smaller. Titterers, the circular wall were constricted, closing in to trap them forever. Then, just as their hope was about to shatter, they saw it. At the bottom of the pit, there was no ground. There was no rocky floor, no pile of bones, no sleeping beast. There was only a surface, a vast, circular expanse that looked exactly like water, perfectly black, perfectly still, reflecting absolutely nothing. Not their torchlight, not their faces, nothing. Believing it to be a subterranean lake, a sign that they had reached the bottom and could find a way out, they thought it was safe. Exhausted and terrified, they let go of the ropes and stepped into it. And the water rose to meet them. It wasn't liquid. It was shadow alive, sentient, thick, and impossibly heavy. It clung to their bodies like cold, wet tar, crawling into their mouths and nostrils, suffocating them not with a lack of air, but with an influx of something else. It whispered memories directly into their minds. Memories that weren't theirs. The fall of mountains, the birth of stars, the silent screams of creatures that had never known light. When one of them, through some miracle of will or sheer luck, finally managed to tear himself free from the grasping, leaving Shadow to crawl back to the rope and clawed his way out of the pit, he emerged back into the valley screaming. A continuous, broken wail of a man whose soul was inflamed. His eyes, once brown and full of life, were now solid, bottomless black orbs. His skin was as pale as bleached ash. And when he spoke with two voices at once his own, ragged and terrified, and something else, something ancient and cold, speaking from deep inside him. The tribe, awakened by his unholy screams, gathered in a circle of terrified silence. At dawn, his tormented movements ceased. But as the first rays of the rising sun touched the valley floor, his shadow had blown its dark against the pale ground. It detached itself from his body, stood on its own, and silently walked away, disappearing into the morning mist. By nightfall of that same day, a chilling quiet had descended upon the valley. Every torch in the tribe's encampment had mysteriously burned out at the same moment. Every echo in the surrounding mountains, a constant and familiar companion, had vanished completely. Only the whole remained in the center of the valley, impossibly quiet, until it still, waiting, as if nothing had ever happened. A week later, the earth itself seemed to recoil, The ground shifted and groaned. Where the pit had been, there was now only solid ground. Rock and soil had moved to cover the aperture, sealing it from sight as if it had never existed at all. The land had healed its scar. But sometimes, even now, when the moon disappears behind the clouds and the night air turns unaccountably warm for no reason, the ground in that ancient valley still trembles. And if you dare to press your ear to the cold, hard stone and listen with all your being, you can sometimes hear a voice whispering from deep beneath the earth, and it is calling your name. This has been Savage Dawn. Prehistoric horror, the pit where shadows live. Fear has depth, and in that depth, something still waits. Thank you for listening. If this story chilled you to the bone, be sure to follow our channel for more tales from the darkness where history fears to tread.